All right, welcome to the afternoon lecture, everybody. Some of you have been fortunate enough to have a few impromptu conversations with our next lecturer. He's been here for the last couple of days. The other day, when we did our introductions of the staff, Torsten asked this gentleman what category in the record store you would find his work. And he mentioned R&B, disco or garage, old school type of genres. The one common thread, I believe, to his music, which spans many different genres, is soul. And he has it in abundance. He's a singer, songwriter, producer from New York City. So won't you please join me in welcoming, all the way from Harlem, USA, Mr. Leroy Burgess. Okay.
Hi, everybody. How y'all? Y'all having a good time so far? Yeah? Okay, good. We're gonna have more. More to say.
You've worked in pretty much, a number of different genres in music, from the 70s through the mid 80s with most of your bigger records. People who may not recognize your name may also not realize that they've heard a lot of your music.
Right, because I kept changing the name.
Break that down for us a little bit. And
why
all the anonymity?
All the different names. Two reasons mainly. When you come out as an artist or whatever, you want to try to make the best deal you can get. And at this particular time, the record companies were a little dubious, you know. They were the stars here and the regular guys here. So what I did was I just took a second and said, before I actually give my name to a project, Leroy Burgess, I wanted to see if the companies were really into it, you know what I'm saying? So I would make up names like Conversion or, Logg, or stuff like that. And as a result, more people know those non-existent groups than know me. But it's all good because everybody kind of knows the music, so that's cool.
Yeah.
You know?
And go ahead.
Also, the second reason is it's really not about me so much. You know, I said this on my anthology liner notes. I wanted always to be about the music to be the main thing, you know. And the less it focused on me as an individual and the more it focuses on the music was always kind of important to me, you know. So that's kind of why.
Well, as far as the music goes, let's talk about the music. It's you've been heralded by journalists and fans and other producers, modern producers, as a pioneer of the subgenre of disco known as boogie. When did you win that term? Like first, sort of like, did you know that what you were doing was different from what was going on in the disco scene at the time?
Yeah, I tried to make it. In all my compositions, I tried to use influences outside of the influence. You know, in other words, if it was dance or disco music, I would try to infuse either blues or jazz or something like that, something you wouldn't expect. So that ended up becoming a style for me. Boogie.
How would you define boogie? The spirit of the boogie, as they say.
I have no idea. It's just something that makes you dance. You feel it. And it's more feeling than anything else. That's why they call it boogie. Because, I mean, how would you define boogie? You know, when you do it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, it is more of a vibe thing. But it's also, I think if you're going to get technical, maybe disco has a more rigid type of beat to it. Or faster type of beat.
It's 4 on the floor. Bass drum just goes like that, you know. And then you get a kind of body knock that kind of moves along with it. And before you know it, other instruments come in to help you feel that groove. And next thing you know, you boogie.
I feel like with your work and your compositions, you know, there's a much earthier, more like harder hitting groove to them. But in addition, I feel like a lot of your music is really uplifting. Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, is that when people hear your records, is that their imagination if they're starting to feel good? Is it their percussion, or what have you done musically
we've
to
actually
make that happen?
figured out the formula of feel good and actually put it in a record. Or I try to get less cosmic than that. I've always been a spiritual person. I love life, I love the world, I love being here on this planet. I've always been, and I love people, you know. Now that's a huge vibration. That's a huge thing to feel. And I try to capture that in my music, you know. I know I like to feel good when I'm listening to stuff. You know, I mean, yeah, you can listen to the stuff that's a little laid back and thoughtful and so forth and so on, and that's good. Believe me, it's good. There are times we need to do that. But the other times, I just like to feel good about myself, about life, about what's going on. And so we try to put positive messages and positive lyricism in the lyrics because we know the listener, this might be a person that needs to feel good that day. Mm-hmm. You know? So, you know, he goes through the whole day and then he hears a record and it just lifts him up for that moment. You know? That's what I try to infuse in my stuff. Yeah.
I mean, your stuff at the time, you know, was it aimed for the club? Was it aimed for radio? You know, did you have even that expectation of where it would be played?
I always hoped my stuff would hit the radio. I mean, I didn't know at first. I didn't know that it would. Mm-hmm. But I always hoped it would. I hoped that people would, you know, want to listen to my stuff. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I've always considered myself lucky in that respect.
Right.
You know, you have doubts about anything that you create sometimes, you know. And will this work? Is everybody going to like this? Everybody going to feel this? And it's like, just little doubts, you know. So you hope for the best. And I've been fortunate that a lot of my music has been accepted and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to play something? Give everybody some sort of...
let me see your list there. What you got?
Well, this is your list, actually.
Okay. I think that we could start with the song that I did with a group called the Aleems. It was the fourth record that we did together. But it gives you an idea of the vibe. So the name of the record is Get Loose, and it goes like this. My thing came off. Okay.
All right.
Next question.
All right. So, well, talk a little bit about that record. I mean, you know, obviously everybody heard it.
Okay.
What year
Y'all
was
heard
that
that record before? Yeah? Oh, cool.
What year was that? And, you know, that was with the Aleem.
Jason, what year was that? 1984.
Now, this was with the fantastic Aleem.
Well, yes, the fantastic Aleem. Some good friends of mine.
And who were they?
Two brothers from the building that I lived in. I lived in the center of Harlem, so there was a lot of talent in the 70s and early 80s just coming out of this one area in Harlem, say from 145th Street to 125th Street. And the Aleems happened to live in the same building that I lived in. Now, prior to us working together, they did background vocals for Jimi Hendrix during his Rainbow Bridges heyday, you know, up to 1969. So they basically gave me a call and asked me to initially arrange for them, you know, to do a musical arrangement. And I went in and did it. And then they did the lead vocals, and they didn't like how they sounded. So they asked me to do it. And that's how I became part of it.
That's how that project came together.
Yeah, and that song was called Hooked on Your Love.
Well, let's go back then. Let's go back to how you got into the music, because I don't want to, you know, stray too far back and forth. What was your first interest in music? You know, you started quite young.
Yeah, I started around. Well, my mom says I started singing when I was 3 years old. You know, and that's only because she was playing Nat King Cole, Johnny Mathis, you know, the modern jazz quartet, things like that in the house. And my mother was a singer, so she loved to sing. And she basically sang, you know, classical, operatic music, but she also liked jazz and cooled out stuff, and she would sing along with Jackie Wilson and stuff like that. So I started singing around the age of 3 or 4. Started banging on the piano, as I call it, at the age of 5 or so. And, you know, nobody really, you know, their parents, they don't like,
right.
You're not serious. You know, this is not what you're supposed to do. You're going to be an engineer. You're going to be, you know, but I always kind of felt it in me, you know. Not only did the songs and the music sound good, but I felt like I wanted to be a part of that. So started with singing, started playing the piano, sneaking around, because you have to sneak around your parents a lot. But ultimately, at around age 11, I started getting really, really serious. And my first teachers came around. And they were jazz teachers, people who taught me in the jazz genre. My first major teacher was a gentleman by the name of Herbie Jones. And he was the chief arranger for Duke Ellington's orchestra during the time Duke was alive. And he taught me for free. You know, I was just this kid that he liked to sing, and I used to watch him play piano. Damn, I want to get that good, you know, one day. And he'd say, well, watch me and stuff like that. And then he'd ask me questions, and before I knew it, there was an actual teacher-student relationship going, just real informally, you know. And that was my first formal training. And then I continued. By the time I was 16, I was very serious, and my parents were very unhappy. Okay? I had started playing with little groups around town, and I was introduced to...
Playing jazz or playing soul? Or playing sort of stuff?
By then you're doing Motown, and you're doing the Delphonics, and you're doing the Moments, and all of the, you know, stuff like that. Some of the stuff by the Beatles, you know, you're just doing everything. Yeah. You know?
Whatever
so, I was called into a group by a friend of mine, Larry Newkirk, and he asked me if I wanted to join this group. We was playing basketball, right? And we was just shooting hoops and singing, you know? And he was like, you sound good. And I was like, you sound good. You know, so I went to his house. He brought me into a group called the Mellow Souls. This evolved into my first real group called Black Ivory. And this is interesting. If I may, you guys mind? Larry had a friend, had a sister whose friend was a producer named Patrick Adams. And Patrick listened to us over the phone and liked us. So that was my first opportunity to work on something serious. You have Don't Turn Around? Throw that up. And this was my first record. The amazing thing is that's actually me singing the lead vocals there. That's actually me singing the lead vocals, but I was 17 at the time. And, you know, you can actually sing that high when you're 17. So I started with them, and we had a good career, good run. And it was a beautiful song, you know, some really nice chords, some very involved things. So, again, it's keeping me interested musically, you know? Because when he goes, don't walk away, right? This chord here you do not expect. You understand? It's like, what's that chord doing there? You know? And that's what makes it interesting. It's like, what's that chord doing there? Why is it there? How does it relate to the rest of the music? You understand? And that's one of the things that made me interested, kept me interested in stuff like that. So I had a nice little run with Black Ivory and so forth and so on.
Right.
Then basically I left the group for a couple of reasons.
That was after a couple of albums. You guys
Yeah,
had a few hits.
we'd made it to 4 albums, right, together as a group.
Right.
But what was happening was music was changing. It was changing from the slow, smooth thing, you know, of this period, and it was changing into some more up-tempo, boppy stuff. Now, what happened was the public, sometimes the public, when they see a group or when you come out with a certain style, you kind of lock yourself in. You get stereotyped into that style. And anything you try to do outside of that style, they're like, oh, that don't sound like them. You know what I'm saying? Anybody relating to what I'm saying here? Mm-hmm. And for that reason, Black Ivory was forced into the slow groove, slow jam thing. Me, I was starting to feel, let's get, let's go. You know, the music is coming up tempo, so let's start going with it. And it wasn't accepted, so that was one of the main reasons I had to leave Black Ivory.
Around what year was that around?
I left the group in 1977, right? My contract with Buddha Records was up, and I said, we had been together 7 years.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, time for me to move on. And like I said, I want to bop the music a little bit, pick it up. So at the time, the bass player with Black Ivory was a very, very close friend. I call him like my brother. His name is James Calloway. He's a real good bass player, okay? And he was playing bass with the group for years. So we left together. You know, I left and he left the group as their bass player. We started writing songs, all right? Now, a year and a half went by. We starving, okay? We're, oh my God, what's gonna happen, you know? It's like, this is so not happening, but we're still writing. And we're still trying to come up with stuff. And then one morning I got up and I did this. James heard me playing. And he was like, don't stop. And so he gets up and he gets his bass. Now it's like 5 in the morning, okay? He gets up, he gets his bass, and he starts putting a bass line to it, right? And after that, we put the lyrics to it, and basically it became this song called Weekend that you guys might be play a little piece of that. It's easier than you think, really. It's like, it's easier than you think. It's like, the groove is in you. It's, you know, I mean, that's why everybody's here. Every single one of y'all is here because the groove has touched y'all in some kind of way. Music has hit y'all, probably knocked you on your ass. You know what I'm saying? Like it did me. And you're here to find out more about it, you know, learn more about it so that in your creative period, in your creative structure, you can start to do it. And a groove like this is, I mean, it sounds nice and it's cool. It really is. But it's just a groove. It's like, how were we feeling that day? You know, what was up that day? You know, we were like sick of everything, and it's like, this is gonna be the last song I ever write. You know? And then it becomes this song. And then boom, here goes your whole career. So it's like that. It comes from the heart, comes from how you feel.
Now, how did that song get on? What was the artist for that record?
Initially, it was, the group was a studio group called Phreek. Now, studio groups are pretty much non-existent groups. All right, they're just singers, artists, musicians that a certain producer calls together, right, and makes an album with them, you know? At the time, this was the same producer that I worked with before with Black Ivory, Patrick Adams. And He had 3 girls, Christine Wiltshire, Gina Hecht, and Crystal Davis. I think that's the 3 of them because they worked on a lot of stuff. Anyway, he had these 3 girls and said, put them together, put the song together. He had already done most of the album when he heard Weekend, and he was like, I love that song. Oh. And I was like, okay, here. That's how basically it happened. Again, I'm going back to Patch Gaps.
Right. And that track was actually remade again.
Right. It was done again by, see, now this is funny. Sometimes you're working with an engineer, and the engineer on the session, this guy named Bob Blank, who ran a studio called Blank Tapes, right? When we did the Phreek session, he was the engineer, right? Years later, after Phreek came out and it was a big hit and all of that, he said, I could still, if I put this out and produce it, I could maybe get some more money for this record. And so what he did was he called Christine, Janet, he called the same 3 people who sang it back in, called in some new musicians, and did a version which is known as the Class Action version. That's the name of the group, non-existent group, okay? There's no group called Class Action, no group called Phreek, no actual group, all right? It's just a producer's concept. Got a piece of Class Action, and it changed up a little bit. He set the groove a little different.
And
So that's a second version of that same, and I had nothing to, except for writing the original song, I really had nothing to do with it. Another producer just took this idea, came in with some other musicians, and...
Same singer, though.
Same thing.
Right. So how did you feel,
I apologize because when I said like that, because Christine Wiltshire, the wonderful person that she is, had a lot of trouble singing that song, okay? Especially initially. It took her like 5 studios, and we had like 9 tracks of her to make this one lead vocal. Because she, some of the tapes were absolutely horrific, all right? She was just like, oh my God, would you please get somebody else, and so forth and so on, right? But I was persistent, and Patrick was persistent, and Bob was persistent with getting that final vocal. You understand? So if we only had to use 1 line from this track and then line 2 from the second track, that's production, all right? Fortunately, you'll have enough takes to actually get a good vocal, all right? But that's why I kind of, Christine, every time I hear her name, it's like, but don't worry about that.
I guess one of the things that you mentioned the other day when actually some of the participants were sitting here real informally listening to one of your songs was the sort of like tension you can build musically with changes when using the jazz chords. You sort of talked about it a little bit,
right.
previously, but
right.
What emotions do you think are related to certain, actual...
Now that's too broad a question, actually. That's a big question.
Well, use some sort of example or something of how you would,
Tension, huh?
Tension or just,
Okay. Well, like I said, you set the groove, and the groove is where all the tension is let out, all right? That's where, it's like grooving, all right? I don't want to say groove too many times, but what I would try to do is infuse tension into the song so that it goes somewhere. It doesn't just stay on the groove. You notice how a lot of hip-hop records or some of the dance records now stays on this one groove for like 8 minutes or something like that. Never really changes, never really goes anywhere. And it's like, okay, I'm really getting tired of listening to this, it sounded nice for the first 4 minutes. And then you're into minute 9 and it still sounds the same. And it's like, so that's why you add tension. Let's see. Thinking of a great song for tension. This song was good for tension. We had a groove that went. that's great, right? That's a great little part. But then, how do you take it somewhere else? You know? So in order to start establishing tension, I said, right? And then, now watch. Then now again, you're building more tension. All right, so now you've got, so you built tension, you let it go, and then you build more, and you let it go. And the song is called Mainline. Play a little bit of it. Here, let's check this mic here. There you go, man.
Now you actually...
1, 1, 1. Hold on.
Okay.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2. Try that. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Well, we'll work on it. Anyway, next question.
Now, these songs, these tracks, you know, full orchestra, musicians, stuff like that.
Right.
You actually have people in your family who are very accomplished as far as arranging and producing. I wonder if you can mention your uncle and, you know, maybe some of his influence on you as far as when you get to this point in your career.
Okay. My uncle's name is Tom Bell, and he's a very, very famous producer and arranger. And he's my mother's first cousin, but because he's in my mother's age range, I call him my uncle. You know, I ain't gonna just call him my cousin. You know, I call him my uncle. So he was a big influence on me during the times I could catch him at the family picnic.
He was doing such records in Philadelphia with Gamble and Huff and people like that.
And the Spinners, he worked on everything for the Spinners, everything for the Delphonics, everything for the Stylistics. Did quite a few records with Denise Williams, a couple of records on Johnny Mathis. He became quite a big shot. He was big time, you know what I'm saying? And I always liked his style of music because, again, he would do something unusual to make you listen to it, you know? So I always appreciated his style. And then secondarily, in addition to Tom Bell being a part of my family, we found out much later on, we just found this out in '96, that the Bell brothers, Robert, Kevin, and Ronald, the Bell brothers are my first cousins on the Bell side of the family. And these are guys that you might know as Kool and the Gang. That's Kool is the bass player, Robert Bell. Ronnie is the sax player, and Kevin is their keyboard player. So we found out later on that they're actually family. But check this out. Before I came out in Black Ivory when I was 15 or something like that, my manager decided to, expose the group, right? Now, he was friends with a guy named Gene Red, right, who was the manager of Kool and the Gang. And at the time, Kool and the Gang didn't have their own band. I mean, they didn't have any singers.
They didn't have any singers.
They didn't have any singers. So they let Black Ivory come on stage for 2 songs, you know, just to sing Love on a Two-Way Street and Sly Stone's Everybody is a Star, right? And kind of premiere the group. But during this time, I had no idea that these guys were actually my cousins. Okay? I found out much, much later that I knew their name was Bell, but I was like, there's thousands of Bells all over the world, you know? And, it's only later on my mom went to a Bell family picnic in North Jersey, and they were there. And I was like, she said, do you know Kool and the Gang is your cousin? I'm like, they are, you know? So it's those kind of connections and stuff like that. But those are the family connections.
Right. I mean, you've always had people in your family that you're collaborating with. You've always had a team of people around you, right?
Well, not always, you know.
There's a couple important people who...
like I said, I call James Calloway my brother because he's the musician that I've been with most of the time. I mean, he came on in Black Ivory after the second year he came on. During the second year, James Calloway. And I always liked his style. We got tight right away. Mm-hmm. So that's been my brother. Years later, after Black Ivory, right, I meet up with my cousin, right? Mm-hmm. Another cousin, Sonny Davenport. You probably, if you have any of the records, or a couple of the records that I made, you might see the names Leroy Burgess, James Calloway, and Sonny Davenport. Sonny was just starting. He had been playing in gospel and stuff like that, but he wasn't really doing commercial music, you know, but he wanted to try it. And at the time, I needed his help. So Sonny came into the group, and he's the family member, the first of the, you know, my main cousins and stuff like that. Okay. Ultimately, later on, it became my sister joined the group for a minute, and more of my family members came in. But yeah.
These are some of your groups and your pseudonyms.
Right.
What we're talking about.
Yeah, the non-Leroy Burgess joints. Just to give you an example, one of the groups was a group, studio group. Everybody got that? Studio groups? Not real groups, okay? This was a studio group called Conversion. It consisted of myself, Sonny, James, my sister Renee, a young lady named Dorothy Terrell, my cousin Esky on percussion, and we began to develop a sound as a rhythm band. And the first track, one of the first tracks that we did was a tune called Let's Do It. Thank you, Aleem. Cool record, right? Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of the ultimate, you know, roller skate type jams back in the day.
Roller skating, I used to fall a lot. But yeah, that's cool.
But I mean, I think it'd be interesting for everybody to know, like, when you were creating these records, you know, what was the process like? You know, who was in charge of?
Oh, this is a cool story. When we did Let's Do It, right? Like I said, we had all gone to the studio. You know, everybody was just hanging out. And we had gone to do another song, right? Greg Carmichael was the producer, and he called us in to actually play music for another song, right? We did it so fast that we ended up with all this studio time left. And he was like, do whatever y'all want with it. You know, do whatever. So everybody, you know, by this time we was all smoked up and hungry, right? And dead hungry, everybody starving. So we send out for some cheeseburgers, bacon cheeseburgers, french fries, and sodas, right? Now, while we're waiting for the food to come, we go into the studio and start trying to make something up. And again, I came up with... Now, immediately, James comes in and starts playing with me. Playing the bass with me. And before we know it, Sonny comes in and he's playing along too. And, you know, the groove just started hitting us so hard that we forgot about the food. The bacon cheeseburgers and all of that came and got freezing cold because we got into this groove and we just couldn't stop. And we ended up doing the whole thing in like an evening.
But is that how a lot of these records began? Just with a riff on a piano, or did it come from, did it start with other elements first?
They start different ways. You know, sometimes Sonny would come with an idea, or drum pattern, and you know, I might start singing on top of that. And then an idea, you know, it'll come out of that. Or James will come in with a bass line, and you know, Sonny will play on it, or I'll play on it. You know, songs come from all different places. The energies that bring good music and a good creative songs in they're all over the place, you know, they're in the air, you know, it's like, you know, you're thinking and your mind is clear and you're on another subject and then all of a sudden something hits you and it's a melody or something, you know, and it just stays in your mind and you're like, that's nice. And you hum along with yourself and you know, so it comes from everywhere, you know, but the process with that was just something hit us. You know, something hit us.
I mean, these records have these interesting changes and turnarounds and chords. But you can only really do these things if you have some training, basically, right?
Right,
so,
right. That's
I mean,
very true.
If someone would aspire to add these different elements to their music, you know, what do you suggest the best thing for them to get them started in the right direction?
I've looked at the schools for the last few days, and it's been real cool hanging out with you guys and watching what you guys are doing and the stuff that you're doing. I would recommend to each and every one of you to learn an instrument, you know. Those of you who are creative and want to expand your songs and want to expand your musicality, it's a good idea to know one of them, you know, so that some of your songwriting can actually be instrument-based, okay? Because these days, everything is, what, computers, right? Computers, sequencing, sampling, stuff like that, right? And a lot of that is not actually going to the source of how you feel for music. The source of how you feel for music is when you get up and you take a shower and you sing it. That's how you feel, all right? That's because your voice is an instrument, all right? And if you aspire to write songs, you know, or to produce records, it's a good idea to learn how to play something. See, because my history is that prior to all this technology existing, there were instruments, acoustic piano, you know, and acoustic bass, stuff like that. And if you wanted to make a song, you had to get on it and you had to play, you know. For me, it made me feel good that I could play. You know, when it takes a while, okay? I ain't gonna lie, it takes a while. You have to stick with this. You gotta learn scales, and you gotta learn chords, and you gotta learn different chords, right? But after you've learned it all, or after you've learned as much as, you know, as much as you can, you'll be surprised what it'll do for you. I'm gonna give you an example. This is a complex jazz change right here. Let's hear. Those are complex chords. You know what I'm saying? I'll do that one more time. Now, you wouldn't think that this would go into a dance record.
Sounds like we're a jazz trio or something.
It sounds like, yeah, some old jazzy, somebody's getting ready, you know, it sounds like somebody's getting ready to go and do that. Me, being, you know, a rebel and being wild and being crazy, I'm like, okay, let's take that change, throw a beat behind it, right? And then throw a groove into it, in the middle of it, and see what we got. And they're like, oh no, this is much too jazzy. Where's Sabaphone? Where's Hella? Where's, you know, where are they? Where's Anita Baker? We found a young lady named Fonda Rae. And after we did the transmuting and stuff with the beat, it ended up like this.
We were talking about that song yesterday, and you were talking about Sonny, who actually composed the lyric to this record. Right? Now, I would like you to talk a little bit about lyric. You've obviously written lyrics as well.
Okay, well...
And what was unique about that record, and what did you get from what he pulled out of that?
I'll tell you something. Sonny, and I lost my cousin, unfortunately, in 2001. He passed away. But when Sonny was with me, he was just this huge creative mind. He could do stuff with lyrics, right, that I just, I'm like, okay. You know, when he created the hook to Over Like a Fat Rat, it's like, we'll get over like a fat rat, right? Peas in a pot, bugs in the rug, we'll never stop. Now you see the rhyming of that, peas in the pot, bugs in the rug, who thinks of that? You know, but it works so, you know, and then snug as a hug in your arms, in your arms. I'm like, who thinks like that, you know? But I had this amazing, the Lord has presented me with an amazing gift in my cousin Sonny, that he would share and that we would share music together. Mm-hmm. He just was able to come up with all kinds of amazing stuff. Like Get Loose, the first tune that I played, he just came up with those lyrics out of the top, you know, it's like, and I'm like, wow, kind of voodoo genius are you, you know? It's like, it was very cool. And he ended up writing a lot of stuff with me. And that's him playing drums, James Calloway on bass, me on keyboards. And as y'all could hear, as I was describing that particular type of rhythm section, what we did on Let's Do It, y'all can hear the style of the musicians on it. So we're starting to develop an identity for the group.
Right. Now,
Okay.
writing songs, so many of these songs also are romance-based songs, basically, right?
Mm-hmm. Is this my wood?
Yes, it is.
Oh, cool. I can use it.
And, you know, they're romantic songs in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was your background in, like, the sweet soul thing, where that was all the songs were about?
Nah.
Have anything to do with it? Or
Nah, not really. In the case of Fat Rat, he was writing that for his sisters and my sisters and stuff like that.
Explain what that song, for some of the people who aren't as
Okay.
English proficient. What is
Okay.
Over Like a Fat Rat?
Mean and
snug as a bug, you know.
Okay, basically, here goes that thing again, I swear. It's the old bell clip, y'all. Over Like a Fat Rat was a song that we wrote because a couple of our sisters, right, were coming to us about how the guys was pressing up on them. By that, I mean, they became a little too, I want to meet you, baby, and so forth and so on. And these were guys that they liked, but they was like, damn, could they get off of me for a minute? You know, back up. And, you know, if you back up and give it a little chance, maybe it'll work out anyway. And when they explained that dynamic to Sonny and I, we went with it. I was like, yeah. You know, I mean, as a man, I like pressing up, you know, but I had to see it from their viewpoint.
Right.
You know? And so we wrote a song about, the lyrics are, I see you trying to take advantage of a sweet girl like me. I know that if you had the chance to, I'd never be free. You know? But while I'm awaiting and I've got reservations and they constantly torture my mind, inside, a voice says this relationship could be heaven for me. So it's a deep thing. It's something that the ladies can really honestly feel.
Conflict.
Yeah, exactly. They know. And see, the thing is, it's written by 3 guys. Okay? So we had to kind of really get into your heads in order to make that work. Weekend, on the other hand, is all about, you know, I'm tired of this. You know, he's not really doing me no justice here. And so now, like you go out with your friends every week or whatever, I'm going to go out and have a night of my own. Me and the girls, and you better hope it just be me and the girls because it might be a dude or 2 in there. You know, this is how my sisters and them felt. And I loved them. So it touched me. Even as a man, it touched me. And I was like, okay, yeah, I need to write something about that. Mm-hmm. You know, tonight's the night, the time is right. I'm going to find a friend. You know what I'm saying? If nothing else, it shakes up the relationship. It makes the relationship become alive. You know, because the guy's like, damn, she said that shit to me? You know? And she's like, yes, I did. Goodbye, slam. You know? So we try to keep the lyrics real.
Yeah.
So that there are people that hear it, and their story is somewhere in there. Their story, your story, her story, your story is in the lyrics somewhere. The money is so low every time you turn around, it's gone. All your money is spent. You just got the check, and next day, it's gone. You know? You are barely breaking even. Don't know how you're getting through, but you're making, somehow you're managing to live. That's what barely, now do y'all know what I mean by barely breaking even? Okay. We decided to write a song about it, right? And I wanted the lyrics. I did a lot of these lyrics myself because I felt that concept, but Sonny helped me a great deal.
Right.
I wanted to do this song because it was like, okay, I'm a successful musician. Successful musician. I mean, reasonably successful. I got gigs coming along, you know, I'm working. You know, y'all know what I mean, right? I'm working and everything is pretty cool. But even working and with the limited success that I have, I'm still having trouble making them ends meet. You know what I mean? So I decided to write a song about it, right? And it's basically about the struggle of surviving every day. You know what I mean? It goes like this. Thank you. Thank you.
You said just now, you described yourself at that time, you were a reasonably successful
Yeah,
musician.
we was doing all right. But
So was it frustrating then to have these different groups, phantom groups, studio groups,
right.
your name not being the most prominent name out there, you know, lacking, as they say, you know, the synergy of all the different elements to forward your career
of
to
having my name out there.
Yeah.
I don't know. It didn't really hit me then. You know, it didn't really hit me. Again, the important thing to me was that the music was getting out there. People were hearing it. And people were relating to it, much as you related to, you guys are relating to it now. Like I said, I mean, there was a time in my life, honestly, that I paid attention to the persona person. You know what I'm saying? The Leroy Burgess, quote unquote, you know what I'm saying? And when I did that, I found that the music, the importance of the music would slip. Because I'm thinking it's, oh, I'm fabulous. You know, I'm this, oh yes. Yes, everyone, I'm Mr. You know, and I find that when I'm so concentrating on myself, the music is suffering. You know, oh, everything that I write is going to be fabulous. You know what I'm saying? I can do no wrong. But you write your best music when you're not thinking about yourself, when you're hungry, and when you're just letting the music flow into you. All right? So for that reason, I mean, in hindsight, at my current age,
Right.
Had I had better publicity, better lawyers, better, you know, so forth and so on, I'd be in a very different place, perhaps. But the place that I'm in is very cool. You know, I mean, I've got a world of people who are listening. I got all you guys who've come, you know, who are here today, you know, just listening to what I have to say, you know. That didn't have to happen.
Yeah.
You know? So, again, it's you guys are here. Well, maybe a little bit because of me, but because of the music. You know, what I've done, what I've managed to present to you guys and what you guys are inspired by. So that's what's important to me. I mean, yeah, sure. Barely breaking even, it's great to have the money. Money is this, money is that. But money's not everything. Money is like, sometimes money can be a complete diversion away from how you really feel. You know? It can alienate you to how you feel because you only care about that. All right? These days I say, you know, as long as the Lord takes care of me, and you know, I need very simple things. You know, just take care of me and let me continue to do my music, and I'll be all right. As long as I'm eating, you know, and I'm okay. You know, so that's the best answer I have for that question. Now, yeah, I could have been the fantastic Leroy Burgess, but I'm just Leroy. You know?
How did you feel as the 80s went on? you know, we heard in Get Loose, it has more of an electro type of production style to it because of the technology and changes. How did you feel like when, you know, the era of later in the 80s when hip-hop became much more of a force? I mean, people may recognize Over Like a Fat Rat's bass line as being in Eric B. as President, which was a huge record in 1986.
Right.
Around the, the later 80s, you know, if you look on your anthology, you know, there are fewer records from that point into the 90s. What was going on in your life at that time?
I had stepped away from music for a second because hip-hop was such a phenomenon and I didn't understand it. You know, I honestly did not get hip-hop. You know, I was like, you know. So I was smart enough to say to myself, let me step back for a second and watch this evolution happen and study it as it goes along to see if I can incorporate it at some point later on. That was most of the 90s, actually.
Yeah.
You understand? During the late 80s and 90s, my last couple of things came out from that era in the late 80s. You know, and then I sat back for like 5 or 6 years and watched hip-hop evolve, right? And hip-hop is a very cool thing. It's another form of expression. It's a form of expression that people, just average anybody's can put together a record and make it good and make it work, you know, and make their statement, which is the important thing. Make a statement with it.
So it's sort of a music of the people in a way.
It's the music of the people, and it's a music that people can just relate to that's not karaoke, okay? And it gives them a voice, you know, those who, I mean, not everybody can sing, right? Not everybody can sing, not everybody can play, but you know, you want to be able to express yourself in a musical form somehow. And that's part of where hip-hop lives.
Did you feel how did you feel when you heard like an Eric B. as President using the bass line from one of your records?
It was an honor because it's like, you know, he picked my bass line out of the millions that exist, that could be picked. He could have picked Good Times, or he could have picked something by Sylvester, or anything else. And he picked mine, so I'm honored by that. I think it's a compliment. I think it's a great thing that someone, you know, is influenced by you. I allow myself to be influenced by, you know, the music that I hear and the music that I listen to. When someone is influenced by the music that you create, it makes you feel good. I mean, so it's cool.
Yeah.
You know, I would like more people to do it. I mean, the last guy to do it was Nas.
Right.
On Nas's new album, well, it's not new no more, Godson album, he did a track called Revolutionary Warfare that uses an old Black Ivory track from way back in the 70s.
Raekwon,
Ray-
Wu-Tang sampled one of your records,
Yeah,
a Black Ivory record.
They sampled I Keep Asking You Questions. That was the flip side of Don't Turn Around. And they put it on his Criminology record. So I'm honored but that people would choose my music for later records. I mean, you know, this don't have to happen. You know, you make the money off the initial release and that's the end of it. You know, but then young people like yourselves, you know, might be inspired by it and use it and sample it in something, and then boom, you're touching a whole nother audience, you understand? And you're allowing somebody to express themselves with something that you did. So that's always a prideful thing and something that feels good and a huge blessing.
I want to ask, well, actually, I want you to talk a little bit about what you know, the more recent collaborations or things that you've done that you want to talk about.
Okay, well, that's a segue to you, Philippe. You know that, right? That's a straight segue. Sitting in the corner is one of your lecturers for the mall. Y'all been introducing me all week. So, and he's one of the people that I've been really, really fortunate to work with. His name is Philippe Zadar. If you'll stand and say hello to everybody. That's him right there. Now, most of you guys have seen your schedules, and you all know that Philippe Zadar is one of the members of Cassius. And back in 2000, Phreek came to my house in Harlem. Him and Hubert. What, Hubert Blanc? Yeah, well, I can't say. But him and Hubert came to my house, and we sat down and started banging out these songs that are on their current release, their new album called Artistry, right? And so I had the real pleasure of working with him, and that just came out a couple of years ago, so it's one of the newest things. There's a new record out with myself and Belita Woods. Have y'all ever heard of the group Brainstorm?
Yeah.
Yeah? You guys heard of that group? Belita Woods was the lead vocalist of Brainstorm, and I had the extreme pleasure of collaborating with her on a song called The Best of Me. That came out in 2003. Okay. And there's a new record out that I worked on with a gentleman named Shay Demir. He's a big DJ from the Detroit, Chicago area. And that's just been released, and that's called, what is it, Lifting Me? Your Love? What's it? Your Love. Your Love. It's another Your Love. It's my second Your Love. So those are the most recent releases. In addition to that, I'm currently working on the first new album by my original group, Black Ivory.
Okay.
And
that's with the original gentleman that you worked with?
Right, it's with Stuart and Russell and myself. So it's the original group, and we're going to be releasing that hopefully sometime in the forthcoming year, 2005. And so I'm very pleased about that. I'm very happy to be working with them again. So that's kind of cool.
I'd like to open it up to if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, you guys got any questions at all? Yeah. Okay. Here you go. 1-1. Make sure it's working.
You said something to the effect earlier that you're happy that you're humble as an artist or what have you. But I just have to tell you, man, and I'm sure I'm speaking for a lot of people here. I grew up listening to your music. I grew up watching my uncles play your music, and it's one of the few things, that type of music, your words, helped me, inspired me to be a DJ. Oh, cool. And sitting here is an honor, man, so thank you very much.
It's an honor for me. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's very much a mutual honor for me because who'd have thought that I'd be here, helping the next generation out, and so well appreciated. I'm so thankful to have you guys. So why don't you guys give yourselves a round of applause because that's real. I mean, honestly, I'm going to be listening to you guys' music over the next coming years and so forth and so on. You guys are the guys who are going to be making the statements. So that's very cool. Does anybody else have anything? Oh, hi. Hello. Let's give him the mic.
Yeah, this is a bit of a technical question.
Oh, I hate those.
Like, nowadays with the advent of things like Pro Tools and sequencers and everything, it's pretty easy to do a vocal take and then just keep doing them, and then kind of run down through what you need. But like when you were with like a band like Black Ivory, did it detract at all? Like, because you were saying, you'd be doing vocals and then you'd be thinking and you'd be trying to find the right ones. Like, do you when you're recording now, do you still do it in the traditional way, or do you also kind of bring in the technology element into it?
Well, I incorporate the technology a little. Okay, I mean it's there, and I don't work with Pro Tools. I work with Digital Performer, but it's the same thing, And so you have the capability to do 5 takes of one lead vocal, and then pick the best one, and that's kind of a good thing, kind of. But usually, what ends up happening is you got it on the first or the second take, that you did. Just like back in the days when you went into the studio and you didn't have 5 different tracks you could do. You could only sing it once or twice, before the engineers is like, oh man, when did this guy get out of here? You know? So you had to try to get it right on the first takes. So I still live in that dynamic. You know, that's why I'm able to kind of get it quickly, because I'm thinking about it long before I sing it. Or I'm working on it up here. And I just come from that dynamic. The other side of that dynamic is you're aware of the technology, so you know you can do 1,000 takes until you get it, and you can just keep tweaking it and keep playing with it and so forth until you get it. That's like, to me, that's not real music. To me, it's like, get in there, get your hands dirty, for real. Don't rely on the technology totally. Technology is cool, but what you're creating here is art. That's what music really is. It's not technology, it's art. You know? And if you're not really in it, I mean, if it's just moving this, moving that, and deleting this, and stretching that, and time stretching, and pitch shifting this and that, who's really doing the art? Okay? So you have to keep a perspective on that and balance it, all right? As I said earlier, I suggested that any of you who are in this seriously, and I think all of you are, right, learn an instrument. Learn how to play that little keyboard for real. Learn how to do a scale or two. You understand? It can't hurt. And it can give you a little more insight into the real art that you're creating. Nothing makes me feel so good as to just get behind an instrument. My instrument is keyboards, right? Just get behind it and just, you know. Now that just came out of my head, you know? And my hands are on the board and I realize it. I'm not, if this was a normal acoustic piano, you'd hear the same thing. You understand? And it's not relying. You know, I haven't turned on a computer yet. You know, I haven't sequenced a thing. But my vision, my idea, how I feel at that moment is now right here. There's nothing like that. There's nothing like realizing your idea from your own hands. All right? And technology is good and it's cool. Use it as much as you need to. All right? But add you to it. Put you in it. Don't be afraid to do that, all right? Because if you don't, it's just technology. It's not art at all. It's what everybody, everywhere can do, all right? The way you make it you is to put you in it. Put your hands on something and put your voice to something, you know? It's important, I think.
Any more questions?
Yeah.
Leroy?
Hey, I knew you had one on there. I've seen you just waiting on it.
Just to discuss like your composition and how you talk about tension, which I really like that theory. And do you relate that to like, without getting too technical with the terms, but do you relate that as like what you consider a bridge, or how? Can you talk a little bit about maybe some of your concepts on just how you like to place your parts and how you like to build the tension, maybe to just let it burst and break out open into a break, and how that relates for you?
Right. Sure, I'll be happy to. I'll try. The word that you use, bridge, you guys are familiar with that in song composition, the verse, the chorus. Most songs have a verses and choruses, right? The standard form. And then what's been disappearing from music is the bridge or the turnaround. You understand? And bridges, creating bridges is a tension builder. It creates tension so that, you know, when you release that tension, the audience goes, oh! You know what I'm saying? I wrote a song called I Know You Will that went acoustic piano. Wait a minute. Did I pass it? No, there it is. Went. Now, that's a groove that we stayed on for a long time, all right? This was the main groove of the record. both the verse and the chorus was in this groove, all right? So without a tension builder or a bridge inside of it, that's all you got. The song's gonna go like that on and on and on and on, all right? That doesn't make sense to me. So you have to build in a tension. You have to build a section that increases and builds tension up so that the audience anticipates letting it go. So what I did was, I went, right? And then, now, did y'all feel how that section just actually made you listen to it and wait for the tension break? Play I Know You Will for 'em. Next question. Oh, this is another one I knew who had questions.
I think most of us sort of have a sense of how shady the record business is. And
Shaky.
Shady.
Shady, ooh.
You know, just artists getting jerked, people never getting paid for copy, you know, publishing, not getting royalties. And you've been in the game for a minute. You know, you've seen, you know, sort of the small New York indie labels that were putting your stuff out, and sort of how the entire recording industry is condensed to 5 major labels that control everything, control the means of production, control the means of distribution, and control the means of promotion and marketing. What's your take on it? What do you think about it as someone who's made a career as a songwriter? You know, what's your take on just sort of the status of the industry? You know, I mean, besides all of that, I mean, the fact that most American artists, pop artists, R&B, hip-hop, are just a facade for this sort of writing machine that goes on in the background, you know, from the producers to the rap artists to the singers. I mean, what do we do? You know, like, what in the light of that, in the face of that, how do we sort of, you know, keep moving forward, or, you know, just deal with that?
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. The machine, as I call it. Remember, Philippe, you remember when we had a conversation about this in Paris. The machine versus the actual creative person. You know, you against the corporate market. You understand? It's a tough place, man. It really is. It's hard to write music and to be forced into writing it. I need your stuff to sound more like Puffy. Or I need your stuff to sound more like this. And you can't be you. You got to be what the market tells you to be. And then, you know, once you do that, they still rip you off. They still beat you for it. They make you search. They make you chase them. They make you search all over to try to get your money, the money that you've earned, and doing, you know. So my thing is, do you, all right? Be you first, all right? Take that there and don't let them change you, right, Philippe? Yeah. Take you there and tell them, this is you, this is what it's going to be. And if they say no, keep taking it, all right? And if everybody says no, start your own damn company. Because that's how Puffy, that's how, you know, when I couldn't rely on the majors, I went to the minors like it was all right. You understand? Because they would look out for you. And they're small guys, so it's like, you know, and then, yeah, you're right about having to chase them too. Because after a minute, even a minor record company starts to get a little major when it comes to that bank account and that dough. You understand? And nobody wants to give up the dough no matter what you say. No matter what, but the truth of the matter is, depending on what place you're in the creative process, right? You deserve it. You've earned it. Y'all are here today earning your royalties for the future. You understand? Y'all, that's what y'all are doing here, talking, learning. You understand? When that translates into the work the records that you're gonna, the work that you're gonna do to make those records, all right? You're supposed to get yours, right? And if you have to collaborate with any company, large, small, indifferent, right? What you do up front is get your lawyers, get your people, talk to your friends, get yourself represented by people you can afford, but represent yourself, you know what I'm saying? Make sure that when somebody says, here's a contract, sweetie, here's a contract, take this, read it, I love your stuff, please sign it, and so forth. Don't sign your life away, all right? Know what you're reading. And if you're not happy with it, don't sign it. Tell them this got to change, or that has to change. Don't be afraid of that, because trust me, you've said it, you've said it. I've been in the business long enough to have been ripped off a lot, okay? To have been ripped off a lot, okay? And all of these records that come out, right, you don't automatically know about them, all right? I mean, there's a record coming out right now that's using my beat that they're not going to tell me about unless I find them. Do y'all understand what I mean by that? Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Unless you find that little company on the side, they ain't going to pay you, and they're going to get rich over your joint. Now, that's ironic a little bit, you know, but at least your stuff was out there to first get that happening. If and when you catch up with these companies, make them pay you. Say, that's mine, all right? Get yours the way that you're supposed to do it, all right? But you're dealing with a marketplace that has existed for years and years. And their thing is to rip you. I mean, if you don't ask about it, they ain't gonna tell you. All right? They're not gonna say, well, we gotta pay you all of this, and we know we're gonna be completely honest with you and give you everything that you deserve. They're not gonna say that. They're gonna let you tell, what do you want? What do you need? And when you undersell yourself, they'll pay that.
Yeah.
All right? Because that means they're keeping the rest of the money. You understand what I mean? So it's all on you. It's the more you know. All right? So my recommendation is this. When you're fortunate enough to be up against a contract or see a contract, get a lawyer. All right? And talk to your lawyer. Make sure your lawyer is not talking over your head. All right? Say, I don't understand this, and I need for you to tell me what it means. So I do understand it. All right? That's what I'm paying you for. That's why you're going to get 10, 15% of whatever this money's going to be. I'm paying you so that you help me understand and so that I'm signing the right thing. All right? Don't be afraid to ask anybody anything. All right? Go straight up to the company and the president of the company or whoever you're talking to and say, no, this is not what's happening for me. All right? We need to reshape, reword, negotiate this so that I'm happy. And when I am, we got a record, we can put it out. Don't be compelled to just drop anything because that's how they get you. That's how they get you. These little hungry artists want to come out with anything, and if we throw any money at them, right, they're going to jump at the chance. There's money. We all hungry, right? You understand? So here's $10,000. All right? Do me 5 records. Right? What's wrong with that? 5 records, $10,000 is not enough. Okay? You understand? You're being ripped off. It's happening too fast. Slow down. All right? Let me say this about that. It's all about what you guys say. All about what you guys do. Each one of y'all got a mind. And some pretty brilliant minds I'm looking at right here. You know, for real. All right? Hold up your end. All right? You've done the music. Do the background work. Get everything happening. Make sure you get your money. Don't be afraid to ask for it because they start out. They come out ripping you off. You understand? Okay? Hope that was helpful. Okay? Anybody else?
Anyone else with a question for Leroy?
Anybody else? We cool?
Torsten? Torsten, you got a question?
Wait, let's get him the mic. That was the long answer, that last one.
You're talking a lot about collaboration, and you mentioned a lot of great names there, like vocalists like Fonda Rae or producers like Patrick Adams. Now, just because someone's got a good name doesn't necessarily mean you get along well. But for whatever reason, you want to make that thing happen, and there's something in that person you want to, get this thing going, make this music. How did you learn to cope with some personal differences or whatever in such a creative professional situation?
The old ego thingy. The old ego question. That's what it boils down to. Everybody's got an ego, and we all carry them with us. Patrick had an ego. Fonda had an ego. I've got an ego. You know what I'm saying? And you have to leave some of that at the door in order to proceed creatively. Do y'all remember when Quincy Jones did We Are the World, USA for Africa, and all the different artists that came in? Now you got Bruce Springsteen and, all of these, Diana Ross and Michael Jackson. They all walk into the door, and they all fabulous. I'm fabulous. Here I am. La, la, la. Oh, no, this is not right. It has to happen this. I need this, and I need that. Now you got 50 artists in this room all going, I'm fabulous, do me. All right? No work will ever get done. All right? Quincy puts up a sign, big as hell. Leave your egos at the door. Okay? When you drop that, then it's like we just people. And we can kick it together. And we can work together and work a track together or sing together or do whatever together. Because it's not about, I'm not thinking I'm Mr. Fabulous Michael Jackson, thank you everyone. I'm just thinking I'm Mike Jackson, and I'm working with Lionel, I'm working with Dionne. Everybody just straight up. They're not Dionne Warwick. They're just Dionne Warwick, Because when it comes down to it, when you drop that ego and you drop that facade, that's when working and collaborating becomes easy. When we all drop our facades. You understand? Hope that was helpful. What else you got for me?
Anybody else?
Okay. No, oh yeah, you've always got me. Give him the mic, Go ahead.
No, it's just I can see it in your eyes when you talk about your family and like people that may not be direct relation to you as your family. I think it's important, like even right now we're developing a new family, and maybe you could just elaborate on how important it is to you to kind of create, whether it's Paris or New York or Germany or whatnot, but just how important it is to really create those connections with artists that you can work with and open new doors with.
That's very, very eloquent, very well put. You know what the real family is outside of what we consider to be our immediate family? Right? The family of man, the family of mankind. All right? I'm as much your brother and your brother and your brother, as y'all are my brothers and sisters. All right? Realizing that gets me over a lot of humps. All right? It makes it easy for me to talk to you guys, no matter where you come from. No matter what language you speak, right? No matter what color or whatever, if I start looking at it as these are my brothers and sisters right here, my aunts and uncles, whatever, you know what I'm saying? That makes it easy for me, and I want it to be easy because I want to talk to y'all. You understand? I need to talk to y'all. I need to feel y'all and what y'all saying. You understand? It needs to be a part of me, and the only way for me to open up, leave that ego and / prejudice is at the door. You understand? Because in order for anything to move, communication's got to be there. We got to be able to talk to each other. We got to be able to sit in the same room and have a drink and have some food and smoke a joint. You know, we got to be able to do that without taking each other's heads off all the fucking time. You understand? Without harboring, oh, this motherfucker, that back of the mind animosity. Oh, this bitch bought this home for so. Who the fuck you fucking? You know, when we throw all of that away, when we let go of all of that, we become the family of man. You understand? And when you're in your family, you want to be able to talk to your brother and your sister. And you want them to talk back to you and feel you. You understand? So yeah, that's how to go about that. Just drop all the facades and say, you know what? Just being here is cool. Just being here is everything. You know? Just feeling you like you feeling me. You know what I'm saying? That's what makes it real. You know? I mean, and just look around. Everybody look around the room for a second. Look at the different faces. No, go ahead. Take a look. Take a look. A lot of people y'all don't know, right? Y'all don't know each other, right? What makes this cool? Because we're all human. We're all human, we're all musicians, and we have found the things that bring us together as opposed to the things that tear us apart and keep us apart from each other. And that's why we're here. When we keep that dynamic in our lives, that's when the most movement happens. That's when we do the most. We are the most. Feel me? Okay, now, are you done?
I'm done. I think that's the last word, more or less, unless someone else has a question.
This is what I want to do with the I mean, because we finished with enough talking for now and stuff like that. I think it would be kind of cool if we all kind of crowded into that studio and see what kind of music we could come up with. Just real quick. What do y'all think? Yeah? Before we do that, I just want to say to each and every one of you, to the people that brought me out here to the Red Bull Music Academy, all you guys, this is one of the moments in my life that I will take with me forever. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to remember this, and I want to remember this, and how you guys are just cool, and you know, we had this moment together. This is something this is one of the bright moments, you know, and I don't ever want to forget it. And I want to thank you guys, one, for having me here, and two, for sharing everything. That's real, for sharing, because that's where, if my music comes from anywhere, it's from touching the world and touching you guys, okay? So I want to thank you all.